The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
Analysts from Berenberg say that the SEC could bring DeFi protocols and stablecoins, including Tether and USD Coin, into regulatory compliance as the agency continues its crackdown on the crypto industry. Wow. Well, that was a big boom, and that came from none other than CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who is also the editor of CoinDesk's absolute positively biggest boom, the State of Crypto newsletter. Boom. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Earlier this month, the SEC sued Binance and Coinbase. Nick, have you seen any signals that the SEC might move on to DeFi and stablecoins as their next target?
Well, so what's really interesting is the SEC has actually started addressing DeFi through proposed rulemaking, right? You know, the industry has been asking for months for the SEC to come up with rules and guidance rather than take its, enforcement force approach. The SEC has done so. They're trying to bring DeFi into the realm of exchanges that the SEC can oversee and regulate. Obviously, this initiative has received a lot of pushback from the industry. They want to, keep DeFi specifically separate from some of the SEC's exchange definitions because that implies certain, oversight, registration, disclosure, regimes that might not be possible for a decentralized entity. So that's kind of, one of the backdrops here. This report that was covered by our colleague Will Canny also noted that stablecoins might be something that the SEC wants to take a closer look at, and even there we've seen we've heard hints from SEC Chair Gary Gensler that in his view some stablecoins might indeed be securities or might at least if they're backed by securities fall under the SEC's oversight. So while I haven't read this report firsthand, it is I think fair to say that both DeFi and stablecoins are two areas where the SEC has hinted that there are ways that these issues or these subsectors of the crypto industry might fall under its purview.
So when it comes to stablecoins, isn't that kind of easier though? Ultimately, won't that be the lowest hanging fruit of them all? Just because it's not so much that you have stablecoins that are backed by dollars, but it's obviously algorithmic stablecoins. I mean, can they outright ban those things?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, this goes back years, right? If anyone remembers, I think it was Basecoin was one of the first algorithmic stablecoins that the SEC preemptively said, hey, we think you might be, violating securities laws, and ultimately never launched. Later on, the code was the, source of, I think, Basis Coin, something like that. I might be completely wrong in the names, by the way. This has been like 4 or 5 years.
Was involved in one of those things.
He was involved in the revival of the second version based on the first algorithmic stablecoin. But to your point, the SEC has absolutely said for years now that algorithmic stablecoins likely violate its laws and regulations. This isn't even like a Gary Gensler thing. This was under previous SEC chair Jay Clayton. So there is some consistency between the last regime and administration and the current one. So you're absolutely correct that the SEC has said algorithmic stablecoins might be securities. But even asset-backed stablecoins, if they're backed by securities, could also fall under the securities bucket. And we've even heard this, years ago. Representative Warren Davidson, who I think no one can argue is, everyone would argue is a very firm proponent of the crypto industry, has said in interviews that if a stablecoin is backed by securities and backed by things that might make another instrument a security, those stablecoins could be securities. So there is also absolutely, I think, years of hints and guidance, not formal guidance, but informal guidance, saying,
what I'm getting at is that stablecoins, at least, those seem to be easier to get at than DeFi in many ways, because as you said, DeFi, like, who do you go to? Like, what do you do? I'm going to sue Code. I'm going to put Code in jail. I mean, like, they did that in other countries, apparently, but ask Tornado Cash how that goes. But, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, especially if you have a centralized, provider. We've already seen this sort of happen this year, right? The Binance USD coin. Paxos was warned that might be an unregistered security by its both, state and federal regulators. and they announced that they would stop issuing it. So we've already seen federal and state regulators go after at least one stablecoin saying, all right, yeah, we think this might be violating securities law.
And what happens to all those? Oh, well, go.
Nick, I wanted to ask you, and you may not have an answer for us today, so if you need to review the reporting and get back to us, that's okay. But is there anything happening in other parts of the world, like let's look at the MiCA regulation, that could inform how regulators might see DeFi and stablecoins? Like, is there anything in the MiCA regulation that talks about these two things?
Yeah, I do believe MiCA does address stablecoins to some extent. I'm honestly not fully versed on the specifics of it, but it does have certain regulations for the issuance and the some of the subsectors, privacy, for example, that stablecoin issuers might have to take a look at and deal with. It's certainly not just a U.S. thing.
Nick, always a pleasure getting some more insight into the regulatory sphere from you. Thank you for joining us this morning. That was CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day. Don't forget to sign up for the State of Crypto newsletter on CoinDesk.com.